Hey, welcome. The market is just full of noise, and trying to figure out who to actually listen to, it can be exhausting. So we've done the heavy lifting for you. We've dug into the top strategies and stock picks for January 2026 from some of the biggest finance influencers out there, all to give you a clear map for navigating what's coming next.
So let's kick things off with this quote from influencer Keenan Grace that really sets the stage. Instead of thinking, why me, think, why not me? When it comes to investing, this is all about flipping your perspective. You stop seeing only risk and you start seeing the opportunity. It's about asking yourself, hey, why can't I be the one who finds that next big thing? And that's the exact mindset we're going to be exploring today.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at how influencers are reading the political tea leaves to predict what the market might do. Then, we'll dive into the massive opportunities in the AI boom. After that, we'll get tactical with some specific trading playbooks, and we'll wrap it all up by digging into the investor mindset that kind of holds it all together.
First up, reading the political tea leaves. Look, we all know politics can create huge waves in the market. So let's see how some top influencers are using political events to build their trading strategies right now. Okay, check this out. One really interesting pattern that Keenan Grace points out is something he calls the taco trade. And no, it has nothing to do with food. It stands for Trump always chickens out. The whole theory is that the market gets scared and dips whenever there are big tariff threats, but then it rips right back up when those threats get walked back. The recent chatter about 100% tariffs on Canada, he says that's a perfect example of a potential dip buying opportunity.
Now, beyond just trade stuff, another huge political theme is defense spending. ZipTrader's been highlighting a proposed defense budget of, get this, $1.5 trillion for 2027. I mean, that is a massive 66% increase from where we are now. That signals a potential tidal wave of money heading for the defense sector.
So the big question is, where could all that money flow? Well, ZipTrader's keeping a close eye on Kratos Defense. They make affordable drones and are connected to the Golden Dome missile defense program. Meanwhile, Keenan Grace is pointing to Palantir. Now, it's definitely a controversial company, but he argues that its deep government contracts make it a really powerful player in this space.
All right, let's move on to our second major theme. And honestly, this is probably the biggest one of all. Betting on the AI boom. We're going to go beyond the hype and look at the picks and shovels. The essential companies that are actually building the foundation for this whole technological gold rush.
I love this analogy from ZipTrader to really help you grasp the scale of this thing. He says to think of the AI build-out like constructing an entire city from scratch. We're talking trillions of dollars pouring in to build this new digital world, and just like any city, it needs a ton of complex infrastructure to even function.
So let's break down the key parts of this AI city. First, you've got Micron. They provide the memory, the short-term recall that an AI brain needs to think. Then you've got Marvell, and they're building the roads, these super high-speed communication systems that let all the chips talk to each other. And finally, you have Supermicro, and they're constructing the buildings, the actual servers and cooling systems where everything lives.
Let's just zoom in on Micron for a second, because ZipTrader lays out a really compelling case here. First off, their entire 2026 production of high-bandwidth memory, it's already sold out, gone. And they're one of only 3 companies in the world that can even make this stuff. But here's the kicker. Even though they're projecting almost 300% earnings growth, the stock is trading at just 9 times forward earnings. He thinks that is a deep discount.
So what about Supermicro, the company building the houses for AI? ZipTrader sees a classic opportunity here. The stock has been beaten down because of an old accounting issue, but he argues the business itself is absolutely booming. They have $13 billion in committed orders. So you have this huge disconnect between what the market thinks and how strong the company actually is.
Okay, so we've covered the big picture themes. Now let's get tactical in our third section, the trader's playbook. We're going to compare 2 totally different philosophies for actively generating income from the market.
Matt Gianino presents this really powerful choice. He says most day traders are the gambler, right? They're making these risky, low-probability bets. He says, instead, you should become the casino. Instead of betting on where a stock is going, you sell options contracts to other people, and you collect that fee, the premium, right up front. This literally flips the odds in your favor, and your worst-case scenario is often just owning a great stock you wanted anyway, but at a discount. And the beauty of this casino approach is that it's a system. Gianino lays out this simple 5-minute weekly routine. Step 1, you watch a small list of stocks you'd actually be happy to own. Step 2, you wait for one to take a dip, say 5% in a single day. Step 3, you sell a put option about 30 days out. And finally, step 4, Right away, you set an order to automatically take your profit once you've captured half of that premium. It's disciplined, it's repeatable, and it doesn't take all day.
But hey, selling options for income isn't the only game in town. Keenan Grace uses them for a completely different reason: to magnify his long-term gains. He does this by buying long-term call options, which are known as leaps. This lets him control a huge number of shares for just a fraction of the cost, using leverage to potentially turn a $5,000 investment into $50,000 if a big stock makes a major move.
Okay, for our final section, let's zoom out from the tactics and charts and talk about the investor's mindset. This is all about the psychology and, for some people, the faith that's behind real long-term conviction. Keenan Grace's philosophy is really rooted in this idea of moving by faith, not by sight. And he applies this principle directly to his investing. For him, it means you have to trust your research and have real conviction in good companies, instead of just panic selling every time the daily price action creates fear and makes you second-guess yourself.
Keenan Grace also breaks down the psychological journey to getting exceptional results into 3 stages. And I think this is so powerful. It all starts with motivation, which he says is like a match. It gets you started, but it burns out fast. That then has to evolve into discipline, which is like a steady campfire that keeps you going. But the final, most powerful stage, that's obsession, a nuclear fire of focus that he argues is totally unstoppable and is what leads to true greatness.
And if you need proof that this kind of mindset really works, you don't have to look any further than his own story. As a teacher, his annual salary was $67,000. But by patiently holding a long-term investment in Amazon, his profits on just that one position eventually grew to over $182,000. It's just a powerful example of how conviction can build wealth way beyond a traditional paycheck.
Okay, we've looked at political trades, the AI boom, specific trading playbooks, and the deep mindset behind it all. So, how in the world do we tie all these different threads together?
Well, here's the key takeaway. While their styles are totally different, all of these influencers are arguing for having a clear, intentional framework. We can really boil their strategies down into 3 core paths for 2026. You've got the thesis investor, who bets on big macro themes like politics and AI. You have the systematic trader, who just executes a repeatable playbook over and over. And then you have the conviction holder, who patiently builds wealth with a long-term, faith-based mindset.
And that brings us to the final, and really the most important question of all. Which path aligns with you? Are you going to be the thesis investor, betting on the future? Will you be the systematic trader, acting as the casino? Or are you the conviction holder, the long-term believer, patiently building wealth over time? The answer to that question, well, that's what's going to define your journey in the market.